You know, Canadians pride themselves on being up on current events, and that's why our female champion from Canada on Jeopardy was so celebrated. But this show was sort of like Jeopardy, but with a more Canadian slant. It's something called Headline Hunters. Now, Headline Hunters is a Canadian game show that appeared on CTV from 72 to 83. It was originally created by Nick Nicholson and E. Roger Muir, who were the creators of the Newlywed Game spin-off, the other Canadian longtime show Definition, Guess What, and others. It was hosted by the great Jim Perry, who hosted 200 Canadian game shows, I Bet and Definition, and several American game shows, including Sail of the Century and Card Sharks, concurrently with its run. CFTO TV meteorologist Dave Duvall, who worked with Perry on the aforementioned two series, served as announcer and was a de facto co-host for this series. It was again a Glen Warren production for the CTV television network and was filmed at Glen Warren Studios in the Toronto suburb of Scarborough. During the final broadcast, Jim Perry applauded the long-running show for promoting news literacy. Perry carried many of his pet phrases with him on a later American game show, Sail of the Century, which he would host for 6 years. Now, the idea of the game was for contestants to identify a newsmaker or event from clues given in the form of headlines, a format inspired in part by CBC Television's classic television show Front Page Challenge. 3 players competed on each episode, and the people at home were encouraged to also participate. Host Perry would begin the game by giving the players a category in which the subject fell. Once he did so and gave the starting point value for the subject, Duvall would begin reading the headlines one at a time. 4 subjects were played in each round, with a total of 5 headlines for each. For each headline revealed, the point value would be reduced. As the round progressed, the points increased accordingly. Players could buzz in at any time, and if a player correctly identified the subject, she earned the number of points in play. A wrong answer deducted those points, and the player was locked out of the remainder of the subject. No player, however, was allowed to go below 0. Now, in the third round, a special guest subject was featured. The special guest was always the third subject in a round and gave their own headlines instead of the announcer. In order to receive credit for a correct answer, the players could either identify the person in question or something associated with him or her. After the special guest or his/her claim to fame was identified, Perry would bring him or her out for a brief interview. There was no limit on how many rounds could be played, as the game was played at the time. Now, headline 1, points given, 100, 200, 300, and 400. Headline 2, 50, 100, 200, 300. Headline 3, 40, 50, 100, 200. Headline 4, 30, 40, 50, and 100. And headline 5, 20, 30, 40, and 50 for a lack of a correct answer. There was one word in one of the answers that was chosen by the producers as the night's hidden headline word. The first player to guess the identity featured that the word won a bonus prize, theirs to keep regardless of the game's outcome. After a time a buzzer sounded, the deadline was played. One final subject and set of headlines were played, starting at 500 points and decreasing by 100 for each headline revealed until either all 5 headlines were revealed or someone identified the subject. The player in the lead at the end of the deadline was the night's champion and advanced to play the rapid round for bonus cash. In the rapid round, the champion was given 60 seconds to identify as many subjects as possible from a set of quickie headlines, with one headline given for each subject. The champion could pass if she could not identify the subject, and there was no limit as to how many subjects could be played. $10 was given for each correctly identified subject. Again, low-end cost, but still quite interesting. Now, at the end of each season, the 9 highest scores of that year would compete against each other in a tournament-style format. The top 3 winners would then compete in a Night of Champions, where the winner could take home 2 special bonus prizes, including a trip, a car, a boat, or other winning stuff. Now, at the end of each episode, Perry asked a quickie headline to the home audience, for which the answer appeared during the end credits. And again, I think it was being shown mostly Mondays on CTV, right before Mondays or Sundays, I can't remember. It was very popular. And, and especially in the late 70s with all the big news that was passing Canada-wide, it was very, very popular. The ratings were quite strong. And this qualifies Canadian programming as well as Circus and Stars on Ice. So this was a little better than some of the other productions. And, of course, the Ronnie Prophet Show and the Bobby Vinton Show. Late 70s, what a hassle. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the latest in the Jim Perry oeuvre. If you like what we're doing here on the Canadian Game Show podcast, let us know with a like, comment, or subscribe. Thanks for listening. Bye.